circumcised penis?
Because Matt was saying I've never docked before, and I was like, well, don't you need an uncircumcised?
Okay,
You
well
do.
you can do it. No, you could do it with circumcised penises. It's just not. You have to like hold it. You know, like you have to really like push. You have to really push it.
You
How
push
does
it
that
into the
happen?
meatus at that point.
Yeah, it's kind of
what?
just pushing the two dicks. No, I didn't say it was perfect. I never said it was perfect.
But that's not. Isn't
'Cause,
the
like-
whole point of docking is that like one
The
goes
skin-
inside the other's
The
foreskin?
skin overlaps, but you can still do it with circumcised dicks. It's just not as like it's not as good
You're
as
just
seal.
holding two hot dogs together at that point.
I
but
love
you can
holding
still,
two hot dogs
Jackie,
together.
as someone who doesn't have a penis, let me explain something to you. When
Okay,
you have
yeah.
a circumcised
no,
penis,
mansplain to me. I love this.
when you have
yeah.
a circumcised penis, the skin still is able to go like sort of up and down the shaft.
No, I
It's just
know.
not as
I've
much.
never not interacted with one before.
I've
thank you.
never not interacted with a circumcised penis.
Never not interacted.
So
you have.
I'm just saying that
So I
two
have,
circumcised penises can dock, but it's not like the same. It's not like a good seal.
Yeah, but that's the whole point of docking.
I know, that's-
is that
I'm
you
just
have
saying-
The skin, so
I'm
it's not
just
really docking.
saying, it's
You're
more
just
like,
holding two hot dogs.
It's more like kissing.
I'm trying
Only
to
the
figure
tips.
out. I'm trying to think through if Pat mansplaining this to Jackie actually makes sense because
Actually, it's
Pat has a
mansplaining,
penis.
Because I was thinking that too. It was half a bit, half like philosophical. Is this really
Half
mansplaining?
Jackie, like,
don't-
wait, this might actually be informative.
Oh, I knew. Even going into it, I was like, oh, this could be legit, but I want to gaslight.
Right,
You
right.
guessed me.
Yeah,
Okay, well,
'cause don't have
we
that
are
part.
recording. By
Hi,
the way.
everybody. This is Under Queer Review, where we three queers get together and take a critical lens to the latest and greatest, and sometimes not so greatest, honestly, in queer media. Decide if it passes the quote-unquote queer review. Today, I am, as always, Patrick, and I'm joined, as always, by two of my favorite people in the world. Two of my brightest stars in my darkest night. Two of my closest...
I'm sorry.
Okay,
Don't
interrupt me.
Don't interrupt.
Closest members of my chosen family. First, we have
And actual family.
interrupting again. Damn. First, we have Matt, an actual family member, and then of course we have Jackie, who I wish was a family member.
Still
How
time.
are we? How are we today?
A little sunburned.
The silence after that.
The
Silence.
silence is deafening.
Well, I thought Matt was gonna go first.
Oh,
the men always
okay.
go first.
Yeah, men always.
That's
go
not
first.
true. When I get out of an elevator, you always let the lady out first. That's the unspoken rule of the
Sexist.
elevator.
Sexist. That is
That's
sexist.
really
That's
sexist.
really sexist.
No, actually, that is like a weird
I pushed the women into the
unspoken.
back and I just bolt. And then I tripped the men too. So
You take
I'm-
the women and you throw them, and then you take
throw
the men
them.
and you kick them.
You
Yeah.
literally ram them like through the door, and then you go.
actually, I throw the women out of the elevator, no matter if they're getting off on that floor or not, unless they're old and they shouldn't be there. And then I hit the emergency close button for all the men left in there, and I just bolt.
Right.
before the
No,
doors
that is
close.
actually like a weird social thing that happens.
It is. A
Oh, it
social
is.
thing,
It's,
yeah.
well, it's like holding a door for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like on the Titanic when it was women and children for the the boats over.
You remember that?
Yeah,
you
I
remember
do.
being on the Titanic?
Crazy.
Jackie
yeah.
was
I
there.
was actually piloting the Titanic.
Oh well,
Piloting
I'm
it.
not surprised because
I
women
saw
can't
the ice-
drive. Because women can't drive.
First of all, it wasn't driving. It was piloting a boat. Second of all, I saw that iceberg and I thought, you know what? There's too many people in the world, and I just aimed it right for it.
You
Oh my
went
god!
straight for it.
Confessing on the Under Queer Review podcast.
Confessing.
Yeah, I mean,
There's too many. There was so many.
There's so much
wealthy
woke.
people on that boat that I was
There's-
trying to break the system.
I think there's too much woke. What do you guys think about that? Do you think there's too much woke?
If Sleepy Joe is so sleepy, why is he?
Why
so
is he
woke?
so woke?
If Sleepy Joe is sleeping, why
Yeah,
is
why is
his
he
whole
so
cabinet
woke?
so woke?
So woke.
That's the real question we should be asking.
Mhm.
Fuck.
Hang on, I gotta call
This
up
intro.
old MJT. No wait,
Marjorie Taylor
Marjorie
Twat?
Taylor Greene. Oh,
Green.
Marjorie Taylor Twat.
the Smiling Titan.
MTT.
The smile. Didn't we find out their identity? Wasn't it someone? Isn't it Erin's?
It's not Aaron.
Someone's biological mother,
Oh,
but
wait.
not Aaron's.
It was wasn't it the shaved kids? He had the cropped hair.
No, I
mom.
thought no. I thought it was when Eren Yeager's dad. Spoiler alert.
Aaron
Is being dropped there. It's someone he's with.
Isn't it Aaron's
It's Aaron's
dad's
dad.
ex-wife?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's his name's mother? His half brother's
Zeke.
mother.
Zeke.
Zeke's
Yes,
mom. Yeah.
Zeke's mother.
Yeah. Spoiler alert.
And
As I said for
it
Attack on
had royal
Titan.
blood, which is why when Eren touched it, he could do some things that one time. Anyway, we're not talking about Attack on
I
Titan.
have
Yeah.
royal blood.
Do you?
No.
Okay, then why did you say? Why would
Why
you
did
just
you
lie?
I say a lot of things that probably aren't true.
Like
So-
how we're his dear friends. You said
Yeah,
that
like how
earlier.
we're friends is probably a
Yeah.
lie.
If you have royal blood, does that mean like if for some reason like a bomb went off in the castle, you would become like the Queen of England?
What?
Well, I think you'd have to take out a lot more people than just
What?
in the castle, because there's like other people who live elsewhere, like dukes of, you know.
I don't
Right.
know about all that, but I do have a bomb pussy.
So today we're reviewing Call Me by Your Name by who did this movie?
Luca Guadagnino.
Okay, which is based off of
Oh,
a
wait.
book. Is it not true?
Wait, is that the author of the book? Wait, hold on.
He's
Your
Googling.
name. Call Me by Your Name was
Tell me
by
your name.
no, it's okay. The director was Luca Guadagnino. Yes, or I'm sorry, Guadagnino, maybe. My Italian is pretty rough, but the
Yeah.
book is by Andre Aciman.
Oh yeah. I feel like I've heard that name.
Yeah,
But-
he's not great.
Oh.
Oh, in what way?
We'll get into it. We'll
Oh.
get into why he's not that great.
Okay.
Is it because he wrote this book, or is it for some other reason?
Other reasons, Mama. Other
Oh,
reasons.
That's
okay.
very interesting.
That's very interesting. Yes. Just to lay down the groundwork, we're reviewing the movie, but I mean we can draw comparisons to the book, but
You two have read the book, right?
I have not.
I have read the
Oh,
book,
okay.
and I've read
You've
the
read the book.
sequel, and we're going to talk about it all.
There's a sequel, a
There-
sequel.
the sequel.
The
sequel.
sequel, and yes, don't they end up together?
Wow.
Spoiler.
Spoiler alert: we're going to get into
What
it. Don't
the
worry.
hell? I was gonna read that book because I
No, you
love this
weren't.
movie so much that I was gonna go read the book.
You love this movie?
Yes.
That sounds very not genuine.
That's not genuine. Well, okay. How about we start with what the hell this plot is? So, Call Me by
Yeah.
Your Name, originally a novel, made a film. I think the film came out in 2017, and it is about a young man named Elio, in the mid 80s in Italy with his family, and they have a sort of a visiting scholar there who's getting, I assume, his PhD, or he's doing some sort of research named Oliver. And it is about their sort of burgeoning romance attraction. And the thing you need to know is that
Mhm.
that Elio is like in the film he's 17, I believe, and Oliver is in his
He's
mid-20s.
24.
He's
He's
24.
24.
He's in his mid-20s. So there's a little bit of an age gap.
Should we talk about the age gap, or should we go?
Well,
let's talk about
okay.
the movie first.
Yeah, so it's about them sort of connecting and how their relationship progresses in this sort of summer in Italy. I guess at the top, we should just really talk about, I assume, like basic general feelings about the film in general before we get into specifics. So for me,
Yeah.
I love how the film is shot. It is shot on like sort of like an older film material. It looks like an older film, but the colors and the contrast is really great. The set
very
pieces are
artistic.
in
It's very
Italy.
artistic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's like an art house film, but it is not like a standard blockbuster film in how it's filmed. It's lovely. The soundtrack is amazing. The plot, the story, maybe a little bit suspect, maybe a little bit not the best, but I do think that the film, in terms of its cinematography, in terms of how it's directed, was beautiful.
Yeah. Aesthetics, great.
Yeah.
I agree. I did really like the way this movie was shot, and like the vibe that it gives off is kind of old timey, but I kind of liked it a little bit filmed that way. I think it fit the movie or the theme of the movie that was going on. So I was fine with that, but I agree. The plot was, we can get into that later, but
The plot was very interesting. When I first started watching it, I didn't know it was set in the 80s. So like first 10 minutes after the fucking long intro, I was watching this. I was like, "Oh, that's like interesting fashion choices. Like their fashion, the wardrobe was great, but it almost read because now with fashion, all the past fashions of decades are coming into the present. I was like, oh well, I guess that's just fashion in Europe right now. And then I was like, oh, set in the 80s.
Wait a
Yeah,
second.
it is not present day,
It's not
present
present.
time. Yeah.
Yes. So, should we talk about the plot since we keep bringing it up?
Yeah. Do you want to start with what you thought of it? Matt, give us a brief overview of the plot in terms of how it progresses and what actually happens between these two lovebirds.
Oh, I have to give the plot. Okay.
Well, okay, you don't have to, but I can do it. I just wanted to give you a
you
moment to
you could do
speak.
it. You summarize the plot because you read the
Oh,
book too.
okay. Okay. So, well, for people wondering, the book and the film in general are the same.
Hmm.
They start the same. A lot of what happens in the middle is the same, and they end the same way. So Elio and Oliver have their little sort of tryst. It takes a while though. This film is like 2 hours long,
Oh my
and nothing
god.
gay really happens for the first hour. It's
It
kind of just
could have
like
been a half-hour movie. Half an hour. That's all we needed.
I was waiting for the nut, and the nut took
The
forever
night.
to show up. And when it did, it was in a plant. So Elio and Oliver, having their sort of like trying to this part I liked. They're both trying to feel out because Oliver definitely probably knows he's attracted to men. Elio maybe not so much because he's so young, but they're both trying to feel each other out in terms of like, are you gay? Oh, do you like men? I'm trying to like subtly imply that I like you without telling you because back then it was less accepted, and that kind of stuff even happens today when you're like at a bar outside and you like look at a guy that you think is cute and he looks back at you. You have to say to yourself, well, is he looking back at me just because we locked eyes, or like is he looking back at me because he's actually interested? And that sort of mechanic between the two of them, I thought, was actually very sort of believable. So they kind of go through this back and forth, but eventually they definitely are into each other. They have lots of moments together. And by the end of the film, Oliver leaves after having his little stay in Italy and doing his research or whatever he was doing. And he calls up Elio and he's like, hey,
I'm engaged.
I'm in,
Hey,
well, because
married.
he's like, hey, I got some news for you. And Elio's like, what? Are you fucking engaged? And he goes, I actually am. We're
I
getting
am.
married in the spring. And Elio's, oh, and then he just stops by the fire, and then the ending of the film is just him
Stares into the
It's just
crying.
on
fire.
his face for like 10 minutes or something.
It's
How
it's a
awkward must it
little
have been to film that for 10 minutes? Like,
it's a little overindulgent to be honest, but it's supposed to be sort of showcasing his heartbreak because he's a kid. Like obviously this was never going to work out,
Mhm.
but he obviously being a kid maybe not have known that, maybe not realized the gravity of the situation, and by the time he learns, he's heartbroken. So um okay, that's basically overview of the plot. We can talk about the book later at the end because it's really, like I said, there's
mhm.
not many differences between the two of them. So, what did you guys think of the plot, specifically the relationship between the two of them? Jackie's
What?
face of just like an eye roll and like a getting ready. Please tell me what you thought, Jackie.
Um, when watching this film, I thought a lot about Love Simon actually,
Oh,
and I
interesting.
was reflecting on how in Love Simon we had been discussing how if the queerness of I forget the lead character was believable or not. And when watching this film, and we kind of ragged on it a little bit, like we were like, oh, like he's just like a guy, and he happens to like men, and we were discussing that back and forth. And in this film, there are parallels to that where he is presented more as a person and less connected to gay culture, and it's different too because it was the 80s, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But I found either the performance or the plot, whatever the presentation of this character's queerness, so much less believable and less engaging. I wasn't
Mm.
just wasn't into it. I was
Are
like,
you saying
wow,
are you saying Oliver's or both of them?
both of them actually.
Bofa.
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 Okay.
Both of them.
Okay.
I really believed I was much more invested in like the plot of Love Simon than I was in the plot and romance of these two characters.
Hmm. Matt.
So I have some conflicting feelings, I would say. I think that, and I haven't read the book. I think I would have liked this if I read the book.
Well,
Now,
go on.
The reason I say this is because I feel like you can make something like too faithful to a book. Like, I was watching this movie, but I know that, like, this is a book. Everything that happens is part of the book. The dialogue is the book. It's like, I don't even have to read it to know that this is a book. But on the pages of a book, you can get into the character's head. You can feel what they're feeling. You can understand what they're thinking at any moment in time. Because that's like one of the benefits of a book. You don't really get that too much in media. I'm watching the progression of this relationship on screen, and I keep thinking, I want to know what's going on in Elio's head.
Yes,
Why is he doing this? What is driving him to say these things? There's like one scene where I forget where they are, but they're around this like circular thing, and they're going around it, and they're having this back and forth. And I feel like it's supposed to be this pivotal moment where they address that there's some feelings between them. But the actual dialogue that they have is so strange. I'm like, I need to know what Elio is thinking in this moment. Like, I need to be in his head to really grasp this.
Yes.
Yeah. And he grasped it.
He grasped it later.
Real hard. That's
Fucking
good.
grab that dick.
So I think my gripe is that it wasn't fleshed out enough in terms of translating it from a book to a movie. They needed to give it more dialogue or give me something else to like tell me how Elio is feeling. For me to really understand like why Elio is doing the things that he's doing, that type of thing.
Yeah, I agree, and I think because there was not that element where I could figure out what he's thinking. I could never really connect with Elio. Like I wasn't invested in him. Oliver just annoyed the hell out of me. So yeah.
Yeah, like Elio has this whole music background.
Yes.
And you could tell like it's important to him, but also you can never be inside of Elio's head. So I know that it's important to him, but like I'm not connecting with it at all at any point.
There were a couple moments too where like he's playing the piano and you can tell he's playing it in an emotional way or it's having some kind of emotional expression to him. I could not tell you whether it was frustration or he was venting or he was trying to distract. I like could not read it at all. There was I had a really hard time reading the emotions.
I will
watching
say,
other relationships.
As someone this is somewhat related, but like the dialogue of that scene that Matt was talking about, and then like the music stuff, there was a sense of like it's a little the film and the book are a little overindulgent in his Elio's like upbringing in terms of like the multiple languages he knows, the fact that he's sort of worldly for being so young. So his family talk about these like, you know, fucking old Greek writers or old Roman writers, and they're reading things in 3 different languages and they're conversing in 3 different languages. And me growing up poor and impoverished, I was like, I really don't care for that sort of stuff in the film, because then you get dialogue like the dialogue at that scene in the Palazzo where Elio and Oliver are having this really specific moment between the two of them where Elio is trying to tell Oliver, like, I don't know anything about things that really matter. And then Oliver's like, what things? And they're kind of having this back and forth. And the dialogue is so annoyingly vague that they understand what's going on, which is great for them. But it's like it's not landing for me. It's giving off this level of pretentiousness with the dialogue and with the writing, that you have these two people who are like very worldly, very knowledgeable, very sort of steeped in this sort of like, I would say, elevated language. It's not Shakespearean, but it's not common dialogue that people actually speak with.
I had to rewatch the scene.
It's so frustrating. It's really frustrating. You
go there and you're like at this point, and he's like, I forget what exactly he says, but he's like, things matter to me or something like that, and I needed to tell this to you. And then they get to the other side, and he's like, we can't talk about these things. Yeah. And I'm like, wait, at what point during that did we get? When did we get there?
Yeah, but I will say though, yes, the book gives you so much more of Elio's perspective because it's written from his perspective. And I will say, Andre Aciman, the writer, is a bit problematic, but the book is extremely effective when it comes to explaining how Elio feels about the situations. It's sort of also written in sort of like a fluffy like very romantic way. Like I just was like, all right, we get it. You know a lot of words. Like this kid is 17. We get it. You know a lot of words. You know how to describe certain things, but like, can you also talk like a regular person
Yeah.
sometimes and not some pretentious snob? Beyond that, though, the book does a very good job of explaining Elio's romantic feelings for Oliver and how they progress to the point where I was reading it and I was like, this actually is very familiar with how I felt in terms of just falling in love with anyone. It's
Yeah.
very common stuff that he's going through and questioning. But of course, the film can't really give you that internal perspective, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I it's important for this plot because you're supposed to be exploring Elio as a person and how he's growing in terms of this relationship with this other person, but the fact that you can't really see his progression because you don't know what he's thinking. And I know we could talk about the apricot scene all we want. I'm sure we'll talk about it. But that moment I know is supposed to be actually a profound moment of change for Elio.
Yeah.
He
Yes.
acknowledges that he's broken, but like the movie doesn't convey that enough for me to know that that's a pivotal moment for Elio.
Mhm.
Well, I don't. Is it that he's okay? Because he has this is what happens. Basically, Elio's alone in a room. He's got an apricot. He opens it up and he comes on it. Like that's just what happens. I'm sorry.
In it. In it.
Well, yeah, in it, like
In
he
it.
kind of like he
Not
doesn't
just
like
on it.
he doesn't fuck it, but he opens
Yeah,
it
he
up and he
tries.
yeah. So then he comes on it, and then later he falls asleep. Oliver comes in. Oliver goes down on him, and he's like, "What did you do? Your dick tastes."
Like apricots.
And he's like, "Oh, I see what you did." And then, Oliver picks up the apricot and puts his finger on it and licks it. And then I think in the book he actually bites it. And Elio's like, "Stop, like you're making
He
me
gets
feel very
very
uncomfortable."
upset.
And then he
Yeah.
starts crying and he's like, basically, is there something wrong with me or whatever? I saw it more like uh young people when they have their sexual awakenings, obviously sometimes will feel it's almost like a perversion.
Mhm.
Like it's shameful. People who masturbate when they're young feel shame immediately afterwards because they think it's something wrong, even though it's perfectly normal. So Elio's experiencing this extreme level of shame because not only is he doing something that like intrinsically is shameful, like masturbating, even though it's really not, he then is doing something with a man, which is an added layer, and then this man is sort of like accepting him for all of these shameful things. He's like licking the apricot. He's like, no, 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 this is like, for lack of a better word, this is what gets me off. I like this. And it's sort of this moment where he feels extreme shame and then he feels, almost like accepted by Oliver for being quote unquote like not right or quote unquote like, perverted. So it's a truly powerful moment. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know if it was executed that well, to be
Yeah,
honest.
it was hard to read those things and the significance of that moment from how it was presented in the movie. And as a person who really was having a hard time connecting to both the characters, when
Yeah.
Oliver is like restraining him and is like,
Yeah.
Right.
and then Elio's telling him like, "Stop it, you're hurting me," and Oliver's like, "Then don't fight. Like, don't
I
know.
know.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
It's
like,
It's a little.
"Oh, I don't know how that makes me feel
because
because there's." Go ahead.
on one hand it's like bad, obviously, because that's
Right.
a little wrong, but it's on the other hand it's almost like Oliver being like, don't fight
Stop
me on
fighting
this.
yourself. Yeah, like, and stop fighting
There's
yourself.
nothing wrong with this. Let me do
Yes.
this because, I maybe not love you, but maybe they do. But like
We have a connection. I
Yeah.
see
this
you.
is fine.
Yes.
So at the same time, I was like, oh, like he's trying to show him that this is an okay thing to do. It's okay to come in apricots and let me eat it.
Yeah,
And then
love
the other hand, I
that.
was like, you don't have to like you don't have to
Physically restrain the
Yeah.
person. And I think there was something
yeah.
about their dynamic throughout the whole 2 hours of my life, I take it back, that read a little bit uncomfortable to me. There was something about the relationship that I was just It was a little uncomfortable to me.
Yeah.
I think, and I know we want to talk about the age gap too, but I think that may be part of it for me. And I think what makes it uncomfortable is the feeling in the difference of maturity between them.
Yes.
Like Oliver
Yes.
is presented and feels like a grown adult man.
Yes, like over 24. I don't know any
yes.
24-year-olds who
Yeah.
act like Oliver acts.
He feels like an adult man, and Oliver is presented as a teenager. Like this is not a mature. Well, he could be smart mature, right? Intelligently mature. But like the way he acts, the way he does things, he's fooling around with the teenage girls, right? He's like presented as a teenager. So it just felt a little bit like there was a weird power dynamic between the two of them because Oliver is so much more mature than him.
Yeah, Oliver at times read to me more closely to a mid-30s approaching 40 man than a 24-year-old post-grad or, doctorate pursuing person.
Yeah, it's a bit a May-December romance. It's a bit December, January, but the next year, January.
But the next year, maybe
the
couple
whole
years.
other cycle.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot God. There's a lot in terms of the maturity level, in terms of the experience level, in terms of like, do we think Oliver is actively taking advantage of Elio? Do we think that he's completely like cognizant and aware of the situation? Can someone that young be that cognizant of the situation and give consent knowingly? That is a whole conversation that this book and the film do not want to have. Like they don't want to talk about the age gap. They don't want to talk about how young Elio is, and they don't want to talk about the difference between the two of them in terms of maturity and if this is a good thing to happen. If anything, the book and the film completely support this relationship, especially with the writing of the parents, who are completely fine with this happening, even though I was like, Mama, the mom's like, you guys are together. The dad's like, I was gay once too. And I'm just like, what? Did no one go?
Are we?
Like, I understand it's supposed to be like, these
1980s
parents are like
Italy. Hello.
These parents are kind of
real
like
liberal parents.
hippies a little bit. They're kind of just like free love and shit. And they're like, you have to go through life and feel love and get heartbroken. And I was like, yeah, but maybe not with the 24-year-old exchange student sort of taking advantage of your son. Like,
who is like,
girl.
I don't know. It had like some. I don't think it was meant for this, but there was like some element of not grooming, but like setting Elio up for certain thing. There was something really weird about it. They could have made them closer in age, or they could have chosen a different actor than Armie fucking Hammer, who I don't at all.
The cannibal.
Cannibal.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then the sexual tension between Oliver and the mom. What was that? Why did they keep focusing on that?
Oh,
did you guys notice that?
Yes, there was
Even
one
though
or
it
two
seemed
scenes.
one-sided.
Yeah, there were one or two scenes, but I couldn't tell if it was just like the mom like playing with the American because she had this sort of preconceived notion of him, or if it was just actually there.
I don't think I noticed that. I didn't notice that.
There was like a scene where Oliver and Elio are like doing something, and Oliver is like almost prodding Elio and trying to get him to talk to him and like hang out. This is the one that's just off the top of my head. And then Oliver is like, fine then, I'll go talk to your mom. And then Oliver and the mom are having like this like cutesy, not flirtatious, but not flirtatious conversation. It's like playful. There's a little dynamic there. And you get to see then Elio he's kind of like flustered and doesn't know what to make of those two having that conversation.
Yeah, I don't know. I really...
And the fixation on eating?
Oh!
The fixation on the apricots.
Oliver...
Apricot.
Abercrombie and Fitch. What? Work. No, so the idea that Oliver is this sort of American who's just all about consumption.
Yes.
And consuming things and sort of having disregard for them. So like he breaks open the egg and just eats it sort of voraciously, and the drinking of the apricot juice and the constant eating, it's like it's sort of giving the idea that this American man, especially an older man, has no regard for what he is consuming. He just wants to consume it and feel or enjoy it. So when it comes to Elio, he's kind of just consuming him. He doesn't really have real regard, I don't think, for his feelings because he leaves him and then, later on, obviously, he's be like, oh, I'm getting married.
Lol. I mean,
Lol.
this chick.
Yeah, not that they were meant to be together, not that he should have stayed together, but it just sort of supports this idea that, he was
does not
this.
have regard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just this man who is
see
just
that.
consuming everything, and Elio is just one of those things he was consuming, and then left sort of hollow and broken because when he leaves, Elio's completely crushed.
Yeah, this makes me hate the relationship
Even more.
and not support it even more. And I already was like, I don't like this guy.
It's really easy to not like him.
Yeah.
I just think it's written in I don't know if it's the actors or like the way it's presented in the movie. It just seems like there's too much of a difference in these people's maturity levels. But also, I just wanted to bring this up because like Elio discovering his sexuality throughout this movie is so interesting. And again, it kind of hammers the point home to me where like I wish I could be in Elio's head, because there's the part of the movie where it's like Oliver's like, meet me at midnight. So they're constantly checking their watches, waiting for this to happen.
Taylor Swift, meet me at midnight.
Meet me at midnight.
Eat me.
But then throughout this same day, Oliver's fucking this chick.
Well, what? That's not true.
What do you mean that's not true?
Oliver actually doesn't have sex with other women, at least not as much.
No, sorry,
Elio.
Elio was fucking the chick. Sorry,
Elio has fucking other women.
If I said the wrong name, I apologize. Elio was fucking the girl.
I'm sorry. Maybe you did say Elio, but Oliver makes a point later saying, "Oh, I know what you thought I was doing, but I was never doing those things."
Yes. Okay, but yes.
What a piece of shit.
Elio was fucking the girl throughout the movie. Or throughout that,
and he came
that period
in 3
day.
seconds.
What was her name? Like Mariana?
Marcella or
Because
whatever, yeah.
There's Marcia, Marcia,
Marsha.
And I just thought it was so interesting that the way that they were presenting Elio's emotions and the way that they were presenting their relationship is that they were very happy. They were having fun.
Yeah.
And that Elio was having a good time, but then goes off with Oliver and then later just like shuts this girl down. So again, I would have loved to have been in Elio's head to be like, at this moment, like, what are you thinking about? Like, I'm trying to figure you out.
Before that happened, when it's Elio, Oliver, and Elio's dad, and they're kind of outside and they're like eating, and I don't even know what the fuck the context was for this, but Elio was just like, yeah, I almost fucked Mariana or whatever.
Talking to his dad. His dad was there.
And his mom is in the background like, what?
Yeah. Like, what are you boys talking about? And the dad was just like, oh, well, why didn't you? It's like,
I would never to my father.
Doing?
What?
What are we doing? Why?
It's another added layer of this, like, family is supposed to be sort of like hippie family, sort of like free loving, sort of like they talk about everything. And I was like, I would never go up to my mom and be like, yeah, I just pounded some guy's ass last night. It was great.
I just couldn't.
Fucking great.
I couldn't buy into it. I couldn't read the presentation of Timothee Chalamet. He kind of seems like a dick. Just wasn't there for it.
I think we needed to know the backstory of the family a little bit more. To buy into that, and which is why I feel like, again, if I'm reading the book and they can give me that exposition, then I might be able to buy into that a little bit more.
Like, Elio's 17, and then like there was one scene where like it was him, his mom, his dad on a couch, and like he lays down on the dad's legs, and the mom is like patting his head while reading a German book. And I was like, at 17, I was never on a couch with my parents just sprawled out laying on top of each other. That's just not what we did. Maybe they do back in the 80s, but that's never what we did. And it's just sort of like this sort of like no boundaries family that like maybe some people would enjoy, but I would not be.
I think this movie could have been more enjoyable and successful if it had like closed captions, but for what the characters were fucking thinking or references from the book, so I could actually figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah, we had to like get, like kind of an anime voiceover, like focus on Elio and like see what he's thinking in his head.
Existential crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, the book gives you a lot more, and I was really into the book when I read it. I thought it was a fantastic book. I
Did
That-
he come in
really
the book?
Come in the
no,
book?
I didn't come in the
Well,
book.
because he came in the apricot, so I
No,
thought I'd
that
ask.
the sex scenes are a little more detailed, but it's not smut really. It's not like he's going he slid his
Oh, good lord.
snake into my shitter and yeah, like he wasn't he plunged his death rod into my hole. No.
Oliver got down on his knees and sucked my cock for 5 seconds and then got
Well, he
up.
did.
Oh my
That
goodness,
was
you're
a-
hard.
That's
I'm
a
leaving.
power move. That's a power move. You walk up to the person you love, you eat their genitals, and you fucking leave, and you're like, well, now deal with it. Deal with the engorged.
No wonder he
engorged
came into
clit.
the apricot. No wonder Oliver kept teasing him.
Yeah, blue balls.
Blue balls.
Blue balls and orange apricots.
Okay. Here's a question for both of you.
Yeah.
Out of the good parts of the movie, what was like our favorite scene? Or, yeah, what was our favorite scene?
Favorite scene. Ooh. Ooh.
Ooh.
That's hard.
For me, I think it was when,
It ended.
When
It
it
ended.
ended, it's just...
not gonna lie, that
The
is
credits.
one of them.
The credits, I really enjoyed the credits.
Credits, and I was like, fucking finally. The scene where Oliver is reading like next to the pool,
His own
and
work, right?
yeah, and he's like, "Do you think this makes sense?" And he kind of is asking Elio, and Elio's like, "I don't know, like, why are you asking me?" And he starts talking about it, and eventually it was just like a playful moment where Oliver ends up just like rolling into the pool and kind of like let moment. That one I was like, okay, I kind of get it. Still think you're a dick, but I kind of get it.
I feel that. I feel that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might have been
The credits.
No, it wasn't the credits. Oh, hold on, let me think. Because there were two. One I think is really funny, and the other one I think is the actual like best scene. Fuck, what was it?
When Oliver sucked his cock for 5 seconds. It's like,
No,
wow, you're hard.
no.
Oh, no, I know what it is.
Okay.
When he puts his shorts on his head.
That's the funny scene. So the scene that I thought was like the most wild and funny was when he legit takes, I'm assuming dirty shorts, puts it on his head, and then sort of arches his back and sort of leans into an imaginary cock. Like it's him getting ready to it okay. When you look at the scene, it's a bit like, what the fuck? But it's sort of okay, it's sort of really cool to think like like this is him sort of exploring what sexuality means to him at this time in his life. Like he's basically a virgin at this point. He's never been with anyone, and now he's attracted to this man, and he's doing this sort of almost weird and perverted thing. But in reality, it's not maybe not the norm. Like it doesn't normally happen usually, but it is something that's not. It's not bad.
Well,
Yeah.
And him doing it
teenagers
is
are
kind
weird.
of
I not that everyone obviously shoves their face into other people's underwear, but like
I mean, I
teenagers
would.
do weird things.
Yeah.
But I think
this wasn't unexpected for me. Like it.
Yeah, this was more normal than the apricot in some way.
I think one of the better scenes. Oh, it's really hard to think of it. But okay, I think one of the good scenes is Elio is writing in like a journal or like a notepad about his experiences with Oliver. And when he puts it down and he leaves the room, the camera focuses on it and then the wind starts to blow pages and you can see what he's
Yes.
written about it.
Mhm.
And one of the pages was like I pushed too much or I did too much. Like I
Yes.
thought he liked me, but I guess he doesn't. And that sort of childlike, writing in a diary, like, oh, it must be all in my head. Like, oh, he really doesn't like me. I thought that was cute. But then at the same time, it speaks to the fact that Elio is still a child and still has these sort of ways of functioning and maneuvering through relationships. And I'm like, he's a baby. He's a baby.
And there was a bit of disconnect too in that moment because on one hand I was like, finally we are seeing into your head, and at the other time I felt like it went against his presentation in the movie or like who he was trying to be, which may be part of the point, but I felt there
'cause
was
he-
also a huge disconnect there.
Yeah, because he sort of presents, because he's so knowledgeable and worldly, as more adult, more mature,
Yes.
but then he has this little journal, which, may be purposeful because,
Yes.
he's not really an adult. He's not really that. He doesn't really, like he says in the Palazzo, he's like, I don't know the things that actually matter.
Mhm.
Like the real stuff, like love, like relationships, like that. So it makes sense, but at the same time, I was like, it's a child.
You're
It's
a
a
little
child
baby.
with an
You
old
are
man.
such a little baby.
I would never, the moment I turned 20, I didn't want to be with anyone like teen. I really didn't. Like
Mm.
19 maybe because it was 1 year below me. But
Yeah.
I don't want to be with anyone teen.
Mm-mm.
It's
You don't
not
want
like
that fresh out of high
it's
school BB. No.
it's
No,
not a
no, no,
value
no.
judgment. It's not like they're I'm sure there are plenty of young adults who are capable of making good decisions for themselves, but I don't know if I want that. And now that I'm almost 30, it's definitely not
Oh
happening,
no.
mama.
No, no,
It's
no.
definitely not
No, no,
happening. I'm 30
no.
years
No,
old,
no,
not sleeping with
no.
an 18-year-old.
I barely want to talk to people below like 20.
I barely want to sleep with
25.
myself.
Yeah.
I barely want to sleep with myself. I roll over and look at myself and like the reflection on my phone. I'm like, you're
Oh,
disgusting.
yeah.
No, no, you're not.
No, you're not.
Don't say that.
Shut up. Let's keep going.
I
Yeah,
think
tell
my
me.
favorite scene, I think I liked the playful scenes between them a little bit more than the really raunchy sexual things.
Yeah.
I think my favorite scene was when Oliver's like, I want to hear you play this on the piano.
Yes.
So Elio goes and he's like playing slightly altered versions of what Oliver wants to hear. And it's like,
Yes.
Oliver's like,
Because it
why do
was
you keep
something he had
changing
been
it?
playing it on the guitar. Like he was
I
playing it on a
hated
different
that
instrument.
scene.
I kind of liked it. I loved it.
I hated
I-
it. It was so pretentious. Because
Well,
it's
now that you say that, yeah.
the whole point of that scene, or part of the point of that scene is Elio trying to inform Oliver that he's intelligent and that he knows a lot about music. Because he's giving him alterations based on other classical
Oh,
composers and
yes,
how
how they
they would
would play it.
interpret the guitar music. And I was like, this is interesting. It really shows that Elio is intelligent and sort of trained as a musician, but it's so fucking pretentious. It's so because Oliver's just like, bitch, play the fucking shit like you just played it five
Like you
minutes ago.
just
And Elio's
did.
like, I'm gonna
What?
play it
Oh, yeah, I'll
like
play it
Bach
this
would have played
way.
it, like Dostoevsky would have
I
played it.
loved it. I
Like,
thought it was playful and flirtatious between them.
I
Whatever.
think I don't know. I think it really Oliver is just like, can't you just let things be? And Elio's like, no, can't.
No.
No.
Anyway, what were you gonna say about the author, Pat?
Andre Aciman, I don't know how to pronounce the name. He wrote the book back in 2007.
Is he a cannibal too?
No.
What?
No. So I just listen, there have been some things about this man said,
Like what?
particularly about he sees relationships with young people.
Uh-oh.
Hmm.
I read an interview once where he was talking about how May December romances young below age of consent people with above age of consent people isn't maybe the worst thing in the world. And
Very interesting.
you know,
Very
it's
interesting.
it's very interesting. It's also interesting because I believe he's straight.
That's also very interesting.
I believe he's married with a wife. I know that. But I believe he's straight, if not, mostly straight because he's got a wife and kids. But so he had that interesting little quotation about him.
This is like a very gay, raunchy piece of media. I'm surprised that a straight man would have written this.
Like, what do they call it? Suppressed or oppressed?
Or maybe he's bi.
Or maybe he's bi.
Yeah.
I haven't found anything specifically that mentions his sexuality, but I do know he's married with a woman, and have several kids. So I don't know, but he had that interesting quote, which I was like, okay, work.
Interesting.
And he wrote a sequel to the book called, I think it's called Find Me? Find Me Here? Find Me. It's called Find Me.
Find Me, yeah. And it's like decades later, right?
Yeah, so the spoiler alert, really quick. The book actually ends with the flash forward, because the book is Elio recounting this from the future. It's him talking to you about this past event.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the book, you kind of skip to two different times. You skip ahead a little bit where Elio and Oliver are in the States and they meet each other. And it's just them having a quick conversation at a bar.
Or like they run into
they run in, well, because Oliver's a teacher and then Elio visits the school and they have a little conversation at a bar and Oliver's like, hey, you wanna see my wife and kids? And Elio's like, no, I really don't. And they have this sort of conversation about sort of like this fantasy that they could have had together, like a life they could have had together, but can't because of outside forces and things like that. And then it flashes forward even later when I believe Oliver is visiting Elio in Italy at the same house after Elio's father has passed, and they're recounting their time together there. That's where the book ends. The sequel then picks up. Uh, it's basically in 4 sections, I believe. One is about his father's youth with a woman. Then it's about Elio with some random man and his relationship with him. And then it's about Oliver. And then at the very end, it's Elio and Oliver together again. Um, and it's sort of it flips between all these sort of times, and I didn't really like the second book that much. I thought it was not nearly as concise or well written as the first one, but it is what it is.
Yeah. So are they like happy?
Oh, do you want to know the ending?
I do, unless Matt doesn't.
Spoiler alert!
You could spoil. I've already read it. Not the book. I've read the ending though.
By the end of the sequel, Elio and Oliver are together.
Right.
With some child. It's not their kid, it's some other kid that they sort of have and that they're helping to raise. But I will say it's funny because one of the parts of the book is Elio with this man that's not Oliver, and they're together, and this man is old. And I'm like, this man has a type. He loves older men. And their relationship is sort of like Elio almost retracing his steps with Oliver through this man, and it's very strange, and I don't quite understand it. And it also deals with the father in another section of it, and the father's relationship with this woman, and then it's Oliver. It's just too much. It feels
like a lot.
It feels like Call Me by Your Name should have been a slightly longer book and should have encapsulated these portions in it without being a second book.
Yes. Yeah. That is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Speaking of the length of things, should this should this movie have been shorter, longer, more fleshed out?
Yes.
Well, Jackie really thinks shorter.
I think this length of film would have been fine had there been more details, context, if it had been more engaging.
Yes.
Or if, for example, if now knowing that there's that sequel that almost feels like what do you call it when something goes like hand in hand with something else? Just combine that into one film.
Yeah.
That information could have made the amount of time that passed experiencing this film more enjoyable and quicker.
I think the length, again, I think I agree that the length would have been fine if I could be more in Elio's head. Like I needed to understand the progression a little bit better. Like I wasn't engaged enough with Elio's progression through the story as the main character. So if I think if I was reading this, I would have enjoyed the plot and the premise better than sitting through and watching it and not being able to engage in that way. How about you, Pat?
I think it's, like I said before, it's very self-indulgent, along with the dialogue, along with this family. They're like, it's sort of bordering on like capriciousness. Like, we get it. They're in this beautiful Italian sort of setting. We have these beautiful like shots of just their little like home, the nearby cities, everything else. But the setting only does so much. So in terms of the actual plot, it's really driven by these two characters. And then when you fill up a lot of your time with just these scenes of, beautiful vistas, it's kind of like, well, what are we doing here? Like, Trixie Mattel watched this film and commented, it's a long movie. I was waiting for the nut. And she's like, whenever I watch something gay, I'm waiting for the nut. And it took so long to get to the nut. And she also said it had big pedo vibes. So I think like, this story is about him coming to terms with sexuality and having this relationship. I wanted to see more of it. Like but obviously the book is longer in that it details more of the length of the relationship, so you get more out of it if you read the book. But in terms of the movie itself, I was like, we could have cut out some of this stuff and replaced it with some. There's a whole subplot in the book that is not even mentioned in the film about this young girl who lives nearby them, and is suffering from, I think, cancer or something, and
Oh
then
my
dies.
God.
It's like this whole other thing that's involved,
Oh.
and Oliver and Elio trying to make her like time with them like very special and fun because of the fact
Aw.
that she's she's from like a shitty family, and I think dies by
Aw.
the end of the book. So,
That's so sad.
but yeah, there's a lot they leave out, and I think the film could have done a little better with sort of putting it
Yeah.
in.
Can I tell you both something, because I think this is
Well,
a
it's
safe
part of your
space.
podcast, so I think you
This is an
can.
open
Yeah.
forum.
Yeah, this is a safe space. We're friends here.
We're
think.
friends here.
Well,
We're
I
gay
don't know.
here.
I
Tell
don't
We're
know
us.
gay
about that.
here.
Yeah, tell me.
I skipped through many parts of this movie.
Oh.
I just scrubbed right ahead.
I see.
I didn't scrub through a single moment of fucking Vampire in the Garden, and I should have.
No, I should have. I learned a lesson. I learned a fucking lesson. I was like, we're not doing this again. And I'm like,
We're not doing it
Interesting.
again.
I was reading.
Interesting.
I was reading. I was watching. Mm-hmm.
Like, what were you doing in the meantime?
Figuring
What do you mean?
themselves.
That's what I was doing too.
Coming in apricots, yeah.
Yeah, well, mine probably smelled worse, to be honest.
I'm just saying, I was quoting you, Pat, from the previous podcast episode where
I
you
know,
also said that.
I know, I
Oh,
did.
Jesus, that's
I was
right.
reminded of a beautiful tweet today. This is not relevant to anything. I was reminded of a beautiful tweet today. I was talking to my captain about it. The tweet was it was something like, gay guys be like, "Oh, I'm so wet." If that you're not wet, that's shit, mama. Gay
You
men,
had Taco Bell earlier.
like
it's
your
just
pussy does
dripping.
not get really wet
Yeah.
unless it's sweat or shit.
Yeah,
What about the scat,
It's-
mama?
it's really about the same.
Okay, should we wrap up? Is there any other questions you guys wanted to hit on?
Can I tell you something not about the book? This is about Armie Hammer himself.
Oh,
So I
yeah,
have his
okay.
Wiki-
I have his
please.
Wikipedia page up on here.
Is it that he's a cannibal?
No. This is the wildest thing. In 2022, he's living in the Cayman Islands near his ex-wife and their children. He was said to have a job selling timeshares after a previous stint working as a manager for an apartment complex. Can I just say that's not at all what I was
Okay.
expecting?
Well, he was, I think he's got some stuff going on.
I think so.
Right.
You don't go to the Cayman Islands unless you're doing
More like the
Unless you're being a
Cayman
cannibal.
Islands.
lull, unless
Oh.
you're a cannibal and doing coke.
No,
The gay man
he's not actually a cannibal, I'm pretty sure. Let
I
me
thought that
clear
was a
the
thing.
record. Let me clear the record. I don't think he's actually a
That's not-
cannibal.
Oh,
But no one knows for sure.
No one knows for sure. It's
thought
a
it was
rumor.
fact.
It's a rumor.
okay. Oh, it's a rumor.
Well, you know what Lizzo said. All the rumors are true.
All the rumors are true.
Yeah, all the rumors are true.
All right, let's do does it pass the queer review? Jackie, you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, it does. It's a clearly queer, in a way, coming of age story. In a way, are you being taken advantage by an older man story? But it is, to me,
So it's like the church.
yes. It is actually a metaphor for the church. Yeah, it does pass the queer review. I don't think it necessarily, harms queer media or the queer community. So, begrudgingly, it passes.
Begrudgingly. All right.
Begrudgingly.
Pat.
Yeah, it passes because you know what? It's when you look at the gay shit, just the gay shit, not the gay shit in context, just the gay shit.
Mhm.
It's actually not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
When you look specifically just at the gay shit, the them developing feelings for each other, how they try to navigate the relationship between each other, it's not bad. It's obviously the context of them being so different in age, the context of like the family dynamics, then it starts to get a little murkier. But in general, I think it's like I said, when I read the book, I was enthralled with the
Horny.
relationship. I was
Horny,
it wasn't. No. I will be honest. It did not make me horny. It made me want to be in a relationship again.
Aw,
like early
that's very sweet.
early
Yeah.
stages of relationship, being like
Butterflies.
that enamored
Dusky,
feeling.
yeah.
Yeah, like the just seeing you makes me happy.
Yeah.
Just seeing you makes me excited and want me to come in every apricot I see.
Ugh.
Thank God my mom has this orchard here because I'm gonna put my dick on every single apricot, mama.
It's real dangerous when you go into a grocery store.
Please, mom, I
Well,
go over
you
it.
have to avoid the produce
the
aisle.
cucumbers.
Not
the
safe.
box of
She's
cucumbers?
not safe.
When I'm done with them, they are brown.
Hello.
They are covered.
Okay, so two yeses. I'm gonna go against you two and say that, in my opinion, no.
Thank God. We
Really?
need some discourse here.
And I think I've laid out why it didn't pass the queer review for me. And I think it's mostly like, I know that this is supposed to be a book, and I could not connect with Elio and his progression of his character through exploring his queerness throughout the movie, because like I didn't understand why he was doing the things that he was doing. I needed more context behind that.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I think I have to go with a no. Maybe the book might be different. I haven't read the book. Maybe if I had read the book, I would have a different feeling.
Where do you read it?
Where do I read it?
Where do I read it?
In the book.
Is your queer measurement, like if you're saying if it passes or fails, is it based on you finding the queer, the gay presentation believable, or whether you liked it? Or like, what is your metrics?
I think it's a combination.
For me, it wouldn't pass if I based on like, oh, didn't pass.
I think
But
it's
based
a
on believability.
combination of.
Okay.
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. For me, it's like, also, what was the theme of this piece of media? Did the theme make sense to me? And like, does it resonate? And like, is that theme, in terms of like a queer lens, is it positive? Is it like a good story? So I think there's a lot of things going on. And for me, it's just like, I couldn't connect to the story enough for me to find it believable. And to connect to the queer side of the story. So that's why I'm leaning towards no.
Nice.
Well, like I said, we need discourse on this pod. So
It's
we need
out of the three of us, though, since it's 2 out of 3, it still passes the queer review ultimately.
Do I want it to?
Is Jackie gonna change their answer?
I just
No, I'll stick with it.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
c'est comme ça.
Yep.
C'est comme ça.
Yep.
Okay, any last parting thoughts? I think I mean, like, I don't know. I like I said, it's a beautifully shot film. I think if you look at the aesthetics of it, it is beautiful.
Yeah.
And the queer stuff, while suspect at its core, I think represents something pretty universal. The ideas of first falling in love, the ideas of like trying to figure out someone's into you, especially with the queer content. It adds a whole layer to it of like, is the person just looking at me to look at me, or like, are they into me? Like, he's a guy,
Are they
but I'm a
looking
guy.
at me and
Yeah.
thinking the F slur?
Are they? Yeah, like, hold on, let me grab this apricot and let me like jerk off with it, and then maybe he'll eat it, and then I'll know for sure. Like, oh my god, and
Then
like,
I'll know for sure.
At that
Then
point,
I'll
they
know-
had already been fucking. Please.
I know. You know what? That one scene where he had cum on his chest, I was like, I didn't need to see that.
Ew.
You were waiting for the nut, and here you are, and you got it.
I know. I didn't need the nut on him. He takes his shirt, he just wipes it off and throws it on the floor. And he's like, Mafalda's gonna know. And he goes, now she won't, because I cleaned that all up. Poor Mafalda, just going into their rooms.
Oh yeah.
The older woman who worked for them, like going in their rooms, just seeing cum-covered shit everywhere. Like, ugh. Poor Mafalda.
The apricot. I wonder if she found the apricot.
No, he ate it. He ate that shit. He ate it.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Should we give a teaser on what we're gonna do next?
Yeah,
next we're gonna do it's a lovely show on Disney Plus. 3 seasons worth of content.
Well, 2 and then 3 45-minute episodes because Disney is cowards.
Cowards.
Looking at you.
I said,
Mickey Mouse.
when you were like, should we tease it? I said, yeah, tease me. I wanted you to go, well, you're a little bitch. You're ugly and you're stupid. That would have been funny.
Lol, wouldn't it
How
be
is
funny
that
to
teasing
berate
you? That's like,
because that's
like
picking on
berating
me.
him.
That's
picking on me.
berating.
Like, wow, look at you receiving hairline. Like, that would have been funny.
That's not teasing you. That's bullying you. Jesus.
That's bullying.
Listen, my father used to do it all the time.
Oh.
And he called it teasing, so.
And look how that went.
Let's close that can of
Look how that
worms
turned
real
out.
quick. So yes, we will be reviewing a show on Disney Plus. It has a lot of owls in it. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 words.
I love owls.
First word
You
is
love
an
owls?
article.
I do.
Yeah.
He does. You do the birds. Second word is an animal. It flies at night.
Yeah.
And
Wonder what that word could be.
Third, couldn't tell you. And then the third word, place that you live.
I'm ready for
figure
it.
out this
I'm ready for it.
this hardcore riddle.
That'll
What
be
could
the
it be?
June edition, the Pride Month edition of Under Queer
Pride
Review.
Month edition.
Oh, we're doing that for
Hell
Pride
yeah.
Month? Oh god.
Well, it's coming out in June.
I know it is. I know. Anyway, happy Pride.
Happy Pride
Yay.
Month. Not yet. Not
Happy
yet.
Pride.
Not yet.
No,
Not yet.
not yet.
Anything else we
Anyway.
need to talk about? Sucking to get a cock.
We already talked plenty about
We
that
talked
in,
about it.
in this
We
series.
did. We did.
No, I don't think so. Until next time, I guess.
Great. Then thank you everybody for listening to this episode of Under Queer Review, co-hosting Jackie, Matt, and Pat. We also have another podcast hosted by Matt and Pat specifically. It's called What Do the Gays Think? Which you can find on all podcasting platforms. You can just go out and you... Why are you chuckling?
What are you doing?
Because I was gonna be like, well, sometimes it's interrupted by Jackie.
You know what's funny? I was gonna make a joke like, I'm not allowed there.
Oh,
They said no to women's voices.
Yeah.
as
Well,
they just pop in casually all the time. Like,
Hey guys, yeah.
hmm.
What are we doing?
go check that out on any other podcasting platform. And yeah, we also stream on Twitch. Our
Hell
Twitch
yeah.
is Pride Empire. All three of us are actually becoming the like co-streamers of the new Pride Empire stream. So go ahead and check us out on Twitch. The link will be in the description, and the link to the rest of our content will also be in the description if you want to find us in other places. So thank you everyone, and I am a cum-filled apricot.
Jesus.
And I'm shoving my face into someone's fucking swim trunks and taking a deep breath.
And
in.
I'm drowning myself in the lake.
You don't want to smell my
Wow.
dirty shorts.
Actually, I'll be Mafalda cleaning the
Did you ever-
rooms.
Clean the cum.
Okay.
Did you ever sniff anyone's underwear?
It's very interesting.
That's
Did you ever do it? Have you ever done it?
I've sniffed
very
my
interesting.
own underwear after it comes out of the laundry because I like sniffing
Oh.
things when they come out of the laundry.
I
I
really
thought I was because
really
you
thought.
you sniff your socks. I was like, well, this is the
Well, that
next
was
step.
to check is see if my feet smelled, but that's a different.
Yeah. I,
No, we sniff your underwear to see if your asshole.
spoiler alert, it does.
It
No,
I'll take
no,
my answer off the air.
No, I wouldn't sniff dirty underwear. That's sweaty. That's assy. It's nasty.
I remember seeing that. That's like a thing that they do in movies, and I was like, why are they doing that?
It smells nasty,
Why?
probably. Like what the fuck?
I will say there is something about the scent of another person that is nice.
Yes, but it doesn't have to be from clothing on their swamp
don't-
zone.
Swamp zone.
I'm just saying. I'm
Just
just
don't knock it
zone.
until you try it. Go over to Roz's house and be like, you see that underwear?
That's very interesting.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye. Goodbye.